Hi guys, and welcome back to Ask Rhyce, where I answer your questions about real estate. Today, I'm joined with Steve Claydon.
Thanks for having me, mate.
No worries, mate. Steve is a business consultant. Steve's also a speaker, an author, super talented guy, and look, we are super lucky to have him locally. He's a fantastic resource. The whole reason, I'll let Steve introduce himself in a moment, but the whole reason I want to get Steve on today is that a couple of weeks ago I did a video about why I think Toowoomba could potentially see a boom. I think that we've got the right ingredients. If you did watch that previous video, you would have noted there was one missing ingredient, which I think Steve might be able to give us a bit of insight into how we could capitalise on that today, hopefully.
Bit of pressure, mate.
Yeah. So look, I guess this is kind of a follow-on from that video. So today we're going to be talking about, business, local economy specific here for Toowoomba. And I just want to, basically pick Steve's brain. I think he, as I said, is a great resource. But Steve, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and give us a bit of an introduction?
Yeah, for sure. First, thanks for having me, man.
That's all right.
Really appreciate it. Love your work. I'm a local businessman, I suppose. I was born in St. George, out west.
Yep.
I moved to Highfields when I was 2.
Yep.
And have been in Toowoomba and the surrounds ever since.
Yep.
So 7 years I've been around here.
Yep.
Seen lots of change. I grew up here, I worked here, and then I started a business here about 5 years ago.
Yep.
I'm a dad, husband, got 2 young girls that are now in school, so that whole next stage of life as well.
Yep.
And for a number of years I spent a lot of time in the local business community.
Yep.
Really kind of cutting my teeth in business consulting, a lot of sales training.
Yep.
And over that time I spent a lot of time working with small businesses, medium businesses locally.
Yep.
And then over the last maybe 2 years, my business and my work has taken me outside of Toowoomba.
Okay.
And so now I spend most of my weeks away, all across Australia and New Zealand.
Yep. Yep.
A little bit of time overseas as well. And so that's been an interesting journey because I've seen a shift of being in the local business community, relying on the local business community, working with the local business community, to now essentially I joke that I'm a permanent tourist. So I've got one client still in Toowoomba that I love working with, but very much everything outside now. So
is the majority of what your business is now?
99% of all my work is from outside of Toowoomba.
Yeah.
Now.
And look, that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to Steve today. I think that hopefully by the time by the end of this video you've watched it, I think Steve's got a really good sort of helicopter view of what is working in business elsewhere, like outside of us, but he's also very much invested in, loves Toowoomba. So yeah, I'm super pumped about this, man.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and so we're here. My team is based in Toowoomba.
Yep. We've
got offices here. We've got Habitat co-working just across here, just a little boardroom that we hire out. So very much invested in Toowoomba. We live here and we still want to stay here. It's a great place to live.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely over the last couple of years, my mindset has shifted.
Yeah.
Quite dramatically,
Yep.
in fact, which has been a little bit, I wouldn't say controversial in a way, but it has been interesting to be fully immersed in it and then get out of it.
Yeah.
And then come back in and see it with some fresh eyes.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're saying fully immersed, you're talking about fully immersed within that business community.
Totally. All of the events, the networking, the coffees, all the things that are required, I believe, to make a real good go of business in Toowoomba. Yep. Which at the time I thought was really solid. Yep. But now looking back of it, I think there's a whole better way.
Okay.
For building businesses locally.
Yeah, right.
And I think it's because of that word. I think one of the things for Toowoomba really to get to its next stage of growth. Yeah. I agree with you. I think the recipe's there.
Yeah.
We've got all the ingredients to make a really, really, cranking place to live and work. Yeah. I just think the method is wrong. Yep. So, we're trying to put the icing in before we've got the flour, so to speak.
Yeah.
We're
out of sequence.
We're out of sequence massively.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing, and this is again might be a little bit of a strange thing to say, particularly I know your audience will be mostly maybe Toowoomba, maybe a bit further.
Yeah, look, we get. I definitely. I have a lot of people locally, but I definitely get people interstate, and obviously, the majority of it comes back to real estate. But like I was talking to Steve earlier, I still see great value in this sort of conversation, because I think that at the end of the day, the better business is going, the more money people are making, the more money they're prepared to spend in real estate. Like that, it's a really
totally
simple knock-on. Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is that we've used the word local to our detriment.
Okay.
I think the small business community has looked inward.
Yep.
To their own detriment.
Yep.
And I think this is a big thing that is not found in some of these other areas that I work in.
Yep.
Even if they're not big cities, I actually
Yep.
do a lot of work, outside of cities,
Yeah.
and even in like awesome places in New Zealand that are just killing it.
Yep.
And they've got a population that is far less than ours.
Yeah.
And it's because they're consistently having it as a home base and then looking outward
Yeah.
to work out how do we bring in fresh blood,
Yep.
so to speak, or how do we even draw revenue outside of the four walls of the 4350 postcode.
Yep. Yep.
Now, I know that's not possible for a lot of business models.
Yeah. Yep.
But I believe that, even through this and different ideas, content, different revenue streams, everyone can actually think of Toowoomba being a home base
Yeah.
to catapult outside of as well, and bring fresh revenue in, fresh resource in,
Yeah.
fresh talent in.
Yeah.
We need some fresh. That's what we need.
It's funny you say that. Like I didn't grow up in Toowoomba. I was born in Brisbane. I grew up in South Australia and came back to Brisbane for university. And then my wife and I ended up living in Toowoomba. But I've still got friends who are interstate. And it's funny, like even this the exact format where I answer questions and help people out. Like only just recently helped out a mate down in Sydney. He watches my videos, and yeah, I mean we still stay in touch. But he uses this resource for him to actually get real world applicable advice that's actually helped.
Value, man.
Yeah,
it's value, and we are now living in the single greatest time ever to embrace change and adapt and essentially create value for a world audience.
Yeah, and
so I think that's something that I'd love to see evolve in Toowoomba, is for Toowoomba as a whole to stop using the word local.
Yeah,
I think it's really hurting us.
Yeah. All I was thinking there, I think the concept of local is still applicable, but your local extends far beyond our local postcode. I think
Bingo.
That's
totally. Yeah. So you might create a local experience.
Yeah.
Where you feel like you're sitting across the table from people that you love, and that homely type feel and that local experience. But that's well said.
Yeah.
Local beyond the 4350 postcode.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing that I found, because we're now living in a time when you can entirely create revenue models and business models that are outside. Because I'll give you the practical example of this.
Yeah.
Is I'd attend networking events, or I'd see the business community. But what would happen is the same $20 note would funnel around 4 different entities.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I'd give you my 20, and then you'd give your 20 to the next person, and then they'd give it to the next. And eventually it comes to a false economy.
Yeah.
Where there's no fresh revenue coming in.
Yeah.
Where if we look to some of the greatest giants, the shoulders that we're standing upon in Toowoomba, you'll notice all of their business models. Of course, they're large. But they drive so much revenue outside of the 4350 postcode. Cool. And so, they're the Hall of Famers in Toowoomba. Yeah,
and I think it's embracing the fact that, it's good business practice. Yeah. It's not, it shouldn't be looked down upon, and I think sometimes it can be, that, that local isn't enough. I don't think that. I think that if you're doing really well, you can service your community, but you can also help people outside of that. I think that's the key point I'd love to really get across. Yeah. Because I personally, when I was really in it and I needed it, it was very well embraced. Yeah. Here. And then as soon as my attention and I suppose the business was led outside, very quickly people no longer want to talk to you anymore. Yeah. Okay.
which is really interesting to experience.
Yeah.
And that's just the raw honesty. I think it's value to our audience if we just be as honest as we can. But, it was interesting to see the shift and even the way communication would take place.
Yeah.
When you're in the ecosystem you're in, or sometimes you're not, can get a little bit clicky.
Yeah.
But as soon as it's not required anymore, it was amazing to see the communication just
cut off.
Just cut off.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Like there's no resentment.
You understand it, but
because
it doesn't.
There's no value to the ecosystem anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the symbiotic nature that we were going in from a small business community was not. It's not going to get us to the next level. It'll get us here, and it's going well. But I think we can all sense that Toowoomba's ready for something pretty decent.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I think that what Steve's comments just there, that like, please don't take them lightly. I think that's part of the reason I wanted to pick Steve's brain. Steve's very much like built a business, been involved very, very heavily locally, as in like our postcode, let's say, but then has successfully been able to build on that. I mean, as he said, he still has people that he works with locally. Yeah,
I'm forever grateful as well. And this is where I think some people, hopefully don't take it as a righteous thing, but I think Toowoomba is single-handedly one of the greatest places ever to cut your teeth in business.
Yep.
Like, it is so forgiving.
Yep.
And that community helps you do it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people get stuck there. And then you see this...
And they just go round in circles.
This turmoil that happens, and it gets to the point where they get stuck.
Yeah.
And then there's always other people and businesses that are forever innovating, and they might do it a little bit better. They might create a better experience.
Yeah.
And because it's the same $20 going around,
yeah.
we're at a zero-sum game, which means someone has to lose.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the whole thing that people even talk about, with Grand Central, is it hasn't seemed to bring any new people to town. It's just dispersed them further away.
Yep.
Well, that's kind of true when you play a game when there's no freshness coming in.
Yep.
Not at scale anyway.
Exactly.
And I get it, it's a long-term play.
Yeah.
But that's a great, a lot of people I've heard locally say that. It doesn't seem to have brought anyone, it just spreads it out.
Yeah.
Well, that's the zero-sum game that we play in this symbiotic business model. So I would love to walk down the streets. I'm here all the time, or at least the start of the week.
Yeah.
I'd love to walk down the street and bump into people that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
You know the places when you're walking down, they're like, sorry, we're not from around here. Can you tell us where? I think I've single-handedly had 2 of those conversations in maybe the last 7 years.
Yeah.
I'd love for that to be a daily occurrence.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that Toowoomba has we were talking about ingredients before. I think we have the ingredients for it and the size now. And I mean, you touched on Grand Central. Like we were talking earlier here with your team about, throwing around. We always reference Grand Central. It's a really big, Westfield size, brand new, fantastic, like large scale shopping model, which I think is a really good thing. But it is ahead of its time, which we've spoken about in other videos, and I think that it's just looking at how we can capitalise on and use that. Clearly, the business behind that, they saw the opportunity at Toowoomba. They see it for what it is, and I think that the sooner, I think eventually we will, but the sooner we embrace that and use that, and businesses, and as you say, like Toowoomba should be a draw card. We should be what Steve's talking about there, like seeing new people come into town and like wanting to come here. That's one of Grand Central is part of that.
It's an ingredient.
Yeah.
It's an ingredient. The airport is also an ingredient. I use it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
We do anywhere between, much to my family's, how do I say it? My wife's in the corner here right now. I'm away a lot. Hey, babe. She's giving me a nod. So I do a lot of travel, 100, 150 flights a year.
Yeah.
That airport is awesome.
Yeah.
It's a banging airport.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
But again, I see the same sort of people who are utilising it as a base of out and in.
Yep.
I don't think there's been many flights where I haven't seen at least one person I know on there.
Yeah, you get your regulars.
And we've used it well, from Toowoomba to the world. I'd like to see that also flip around from the world to Toowoomba.
Yeah, exactly. I think it can.
It can if we get our marketing really good.
Yeah.
We change the collective mindset of that we would love Toowoomba full of tourism,
Yep.
full of tourists, and really have some points that we can leverage to draw some people in.
Yeah.
That's the real key, I think, to it. And the other thing I'd love to explore, I think, would be showing Toowoomba as a place for large corporate companies to place satellite offices.
Yep.
Or head offices.
Yep.
I think there's nothing better for people that are, wanting to exodus the cities.
Yeah.
To put this as a place of head office.
Yeah.
I think some people do it well, but I think marketing from that point of view as well would be brilliant. We need to show some really solid business cases of how they could do that.
Yeah, cool. Steve, we might just take a super quick break, guys, and we'll be back with you in a moment. All right, guys, we're back. So, look, I just want to roll into a couple of questions direct for Steve. Like, we've had a bit of a, holistic chat about business. Mm-hmm. Mate, I guess to start off, so specifically for a local business that's sitting here in Toowoomba, what have you seen that's working elsewhere? So whether you're in New Zealand or somewhere else in Australia, what have you seen that's actually worked? It might be a small business that's been able to grow into a medium business, something like that. Is there anything that comes to mind that you think would add value? Yeah,
for sure. I think the number one thing for small businesses, particularly in Toowoomba, is to work out how they can bring in revenue streams that are outside of Toowoomba. Whether that's passive revenue streams by providing value to their marketplace, or building in marketing models that allow them to tap into customer bases outside of Toowoomba. And the one thing that they all do really well is essentially they're hedging. So let's say it's a quiet day in Toowoomba, but they've got a strong day online. Then those two things hedge together nicely. Okay. I think one business in Toowoomba that does this exceptionally well, that I don't think gets the praise and credit that he deserves, is Harold's. Okay. Online retailer next to the goal is up there. So much of his business is coming through Instagram and online. And then so he doesn't really have to have a busy day in Toowoomba to still have a good day in business. And still have a good business, full stop. So it's hedging. That's what they all do really well, even across New Zealand, because they have to. It's hard to do business. There's less people and it's a treacherous terrain. So they have to work smart and they have to think outside the box and think outside the four walls. So I think that's one thing we could do really well. I think New Zealand's a perfect example. We chatted about this a couple of weeks ago when we first decided to catch up. And I think New Zealand is a perfect example. I love New Zealand. It's one of my favourite places to visit. But the thing with New Zealand is, in order for them to have a really thriving economy, they can't rely on... There's only so many people there. Their population is only such a size. And I think Toowoomba could be a direct... We could use that. We're a desirable place to visit, like New Zealand. And I think that embracing those models that Steve just talked about would be really good for any businesses looking to kind of get to the next level, or fuel this healthier economy that we're talking about as being a missing ingredient to a potential boom. So totally, there's so much value even in, I know this is not for every business model, but there's so much value just in information products. That a lot of businesses have solutions to problems that they think nobody would care about that. It's a big world out there. And there's a lot of people looking for answers to problems, and sometimes you just package that as an information product. And you'll be amazed at how quickly you can build up multiple revenue models in virtually any business. Which aren't going to take, but once you've built something like that, it's not going to take the time and energy of a face-to-face having to rehash that conversation. Not at all. I even think about this, food retail, pizza and pie just around the corner here. We eat a lot of his croissants. Shout out to Rob. They're brilliant. I reckon they're one of the best breakfast croissants out there. A little bit breadier, they're almost borderline savoury, but delicious. There is nothing stopping him grabbing out his phone, producing a 4-part video series on how to make the perfect croissant. And then marketing that to the greater world for people that want to make croissants. And then if he gets builds a big enough audience, sells that for $19 online. you know, and then so now you've got a scalable business model. So it's raining and cold out there. Doesn't matter. He might still be selling croissants virtually. That's the world we live in. It's unbelievable how you can then bring in fresh revenue from outside of Toowoomba, outside the 4350 postcode.
Free tips from Claydon this morning. That's cool.
Get your croissants.
Mate, so that's what's working elsewhere. Next one I always like to, obviously love to learn from mistakes. What have you seen, what do you think has been the biggest mistakes, in your consulting side of it or in your travels, or even if it's locally, where are the biggest mistakes that you've seen from a local business trying to improve?
Biggest mistake I see consistently is a failure to innovate.
Okay.
And so typically it stems from a lack of confidence. Some of it is not willing to ask for help. So it's a bit of a pride thing sometimes. But the biggest mistake I ever see is, no, I don't know how to do that. So therefore I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm already doing.
This is how I've always done it. This is,
It's the surefire way to see what I refer to as a death spiral. And they're a fair way down the death spiral when they start then blaming external things that they can't control. Oh, it's because of the parking. Oh, it's because of this. Oh, it's because of that. And you're pretty far down the death spiral.
Global economy, everything's bad.
Some sort of health scare is going to come back, and those things are just constants. That's always going to happen. Regardless of whether it's true or not.
It's what you can do, and I guess that's a great follow-on from your first tip there, is looking to innovate and embrace new things and look at different revenue models that are outside of your immediate local.
Lateral thinking.
That's an awesome thing. That's it's the opposite of that. It's that on its greater scale of blaming external things that aren't in your control anyway. So.
It's a death spiral. And you get those two things together. So fixed thinking, fear of change, I don't know how to do this, I'm afraid to ask for help, and therefore point. That's the biggest mistake I think not any business, but any person can make. It's the ultimate lack of responsibility. So
Steve, probably the question that I've wanted to pick your brain about, or have an answer from you the most, is it's partial prediction, but also maybe a wish list too. So moving forward, what would you like to see for Toowoomba? I realise that your business is, majority of it's external, but you still live here. You're part of this community. Your family's here. You guys what would you like to see, or what do you think would have the biggest impact to bring about what we're talking about? I think eventually we'll get there, but I think the idea is that if we can
fast track it.
How do we fast track bringing Toowoomba into modern economy and really embracing we have a huge opportunity in front of us. What does that look like to you? Any predictions you have for the future, or how we can get there?
I think the single best thing that's ever happened to Toowoomba, and I think I saw an article floating around which I desperately wish that it would happen. The single best thing that started to move Toowoomba on a path was First Coat Festival. That was the single best thing that's ever happened to Toowoomba.
100% agree.
The downside is the business community didn't embrace it nowhere near enough. There needs to be a collective coming together of the business community and the arts community. We've got two different skill sets that when paired are just unbelievable. I think we've got real estate and assets now. When Dan Elborn did his Deathgate art exhibition over at that new, it's big shed thing with that, where that ring road is. That's a beautiful piece of real estate that could be owned. I was in Hobart a few weeks ago where they had the World Ceramics Convention. And they brought ceramic artists and people doing pottery from all over the world to Hobart, and they hosted in a shed just like that, and the place was pumping. They had fire pits going. They had some great random jazz band. I think the number one way to fast track the growth of Toowoomba is for the arts and business community to come together, for people to embrace wacky ideas and things that are completely unorthodox in a really cool way, and ultimately would be to get a convention center here or something that can host multiple thousand people in a very versatile and functional way. And then the third piece of the puzzle would be for people, whether they're involved in tourism, council, government, whatever, I don't care who it is, business community at large,
Yep.
is to market their little hearts out and tell the global ceramics population that Toowoomba's open for business,
Yep.
or find other weird niches. I don't
Yeah.
care what it is. The places that are killing it is they find a niche and then they own it. The weirder the better.
Yeah.
And so I honestly think that would be the way that we could make this go
fast
really
track it. Yeah.
we're in New Zealand a couple of weeks ago, babe. Where was that place? Oamaru?
Yeah.
Oamaru? Yeah. So Oamaru had a population like 25,000 people.
Yeah.
And had what they said, a pretty decent, it's on the South Island East Coast, about 3 hours from Queenstown.
Yep.
Small population, 25,000, and they had a steampunk museum. Wouldn't it be sweet if Toowoomba had, like a steampunk museum or some other little niche-y thing that we could just own that was completely unique, that drew people to the region?
So steampunk museum, like, what are you talking about?
So it's like, Burning Man, like it's they grab different bits and pieces and then like weld them together.
Yeah.
So when you're driving through the town, there's like this old hall, like shed essentially, and then there's this old steam engine train that's like the rail had been like pulled out of the ground and it's like, it looks like it's going to shoot off into the sky.
Yeah.
And then there's just all these weird contraptions all over the place. You know?
That's cool.
And so like that's as niche as you can ever get.
Yeah.
But more as an example of that, I think Toowoomba could do things different. It could be, for goodness sake, like the Flower Food and Wine Festival. It's a great example.
Yeah.
But
It's 1 week, and then like we've talked about that before. Like, it's 52 weeks in the year. That's 1 week. Surely we can get some more stuff there. Like, you're really trying to actually get people and make this a go-to region. I think that Flower Food and Wine is fantastic, but it's it's a week out of the year.
Yeah, and it's when the whole place really comes alive. Yeah. And if we could get that more frequent, everyone wins.
Exactly.
It's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is so simple but it's missing since we've been to like New Zealand a few times.
Yeah.
It's just open fireplaces.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Like you go in every cafe or you're walking down the street and there's just like a barrel sitting in the middle of a communal space with like the wood's cranking and everyone's sort of standing around chatting. Like close off Margaret Street here.
Yep.
Get some barrels out, load up some fires. I don't know, run a honey mead festival. It's cold outside. It's sick, and I reckon everyone would love it. But it takes us to once again think a little bit different about how we do things.
Yep.
One, for someone to come up with the crazy idea and then just have council and all the rest back it,
Yeah.
and
get
market
on
it really well.
Yeah.
I think that's really going to be a big part of it.
Yeah. Cool. So just to recap on that, guys, we talked about I guess some crazy ideas trying to just make Toowoomba more of a draw card. And I think that the one thing we touched on there was the convention centre. Like, I think having a dedicated large-scale space that we can actually utilise would be something that would just be amazing and make the whole process a lot easier.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the other thing I've been researching. I wrote a letter recently of just some of my thoughts around Toowoomba and the future of Toowoomba. And you look at more regional areas that do have a convention centre or a communal space, and then you go to Wikipedia and you look at the previous events they've hosted there. Yeah. Some of them are like super niche. Yeah. It's like the World Convention on how seaweed interacts with microorganisms. Yeah. And they drew like thousands of people all over the world to one destination. I would love to see us market hard for things like that. Find niche industries and go, hey, have you considered Toowoomba? We've got an airport. We can link you Sydney, International, whatever it may be. There's some great food. There's, great views. Stanthorpe's not far away. Emerald out at Hampton's got good stuff. Rosalie House is a great Sunday session. Yeah. Like there's a lot of good stuff going for Toowoomba. Yeah. A lot of good ingredients. It's just now getting the method right. Yeah, exactly. Guys, look, I think we'll wrap it up there. I really, really hope you got something out of the chat with Steve today. Like I said at the start of the interview, and probably a couple of times too, like Steve is a fantastic resource. And guys, I look, if you have any comments or questions, please post them in the comments below. I will also link up all of Steve's details.
And if you have any questions or you want to reach out to Steve directly, please do so. But Steve, thank you.
Thank you, mate.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Thanks.